Well, 1 year ago this week, a fire at the Chevron refinery in Richmond sent thousands of local residents to hospitals with respiratory problems. Last Saturday, demonstrators called for better safety measures at Chevron and for alternatives to fossil fuels. The oil giant agreed earlier this week to pay $2 million in fines and restitution for last summer's fire. David, will this fine help re-mend relations between Chevron and the surrounding community?
Almost certainly not. A couple days before they agreed to pay this fine and these damages here, just a couple days before that, the city of Richmond finally went ahead, made good on their threat, and sued the company. And the comments that came out around that suit were really pretty revealing. The mayor and other public officials in Richmond very critical of the company, the way they've handled the refinery over the years, and also the way they've handled the aftermath. And Chevron, their response to the lawsuit was basically to say this is another sign of the dysfunctional government in Richmond. They didn't really, neither side really tried to play nice. So even though the company on Monday decided to settle up with the county, which had filed some misdemeanor charges against them, the relationship with the city is still very, very antagonistic.
Aside from this fine under the settlement, is Chevron required to improve its inspection or training programs, or is it just a fine?
Well, there are a lot of components in there of improving things, and you got to realize also that this fine is not the only action that's going on around the refinery and trying to improve the way it operates. There have been investigations and recommendations from different levels of government, federal, state, local. All of these things are sort of in play at the moment, and the company has its own program for trying to clean things up there. So there's still a lot of stuff going on that has not even begun to settle out yet.
Wait, so there have been suggestions made since the fire, but have there been any actual safety improvements or changes made?
There have been some. The refinery has gone around and replaced a lot of equipment, although not nearly as much as many people would like. They have installed some air pollution monitors at the perimeter of the place, although they haven't done everything there that they agreed to do several years ago in terms of setting up some monitors in the surrounding neighborhoods. So they are making some progress on various things, but at the same time you have a number of different government actions just still hanging over their heads, and all the steps that they'll need to take in the end in response to the fire, we still don't even know what all of those are going to be yet.
And so
go ahead.
I have heard they want to expand in the Richmond area, and it seems very bad timing for them, number one, to even talk at all about any expansion, and the idea that they would then buy off credits to emit more in a community that has already sent thousands of people to the hospital. In this last one, I remember covering another one where there were many more people inhaling fumes, or the number of times that they've been told to shelter in place. It just seems to me that it has reached a crisis point, really, in the community there.
They had an upgrade project that they wanted to do and that they were pushing for years before this fire burst out, where they wanted to, it was going to expand the amount of gasoline that they'd be able to produce, even though they would still be taking in the same amount of crude oil. They ran into a problem with that with the local environmental community, which actually managed to get a judge to stop the project. The judge ruled that in the environmental review for this project, the company hadn't answered some very basic questions that the critics had been raising about it. So that kind of slammed to a halt before the fire even happened. Now, what they're going to do going forward, the last time I asked them about that, they were sort of going back and revisiting that plan, but gasoline use in California is actually falling now, so they don't have much incentive to do that anymore.
Yeah. David, I wonder, ultimately, isn't the presence of such a big refinery in such a densely populated area something that, is really incompatible? Could there be a scenario in which Chevron would just pull out? Although in that case, I would think Richmond would be very unhappy because they are the largest property taxpayer in the city.
Yeah. No, the refinery actually predates the city. The refinery was built there before the city was established. But yeah, I mean, if you were actually to go and redo the Bay Area from scratch, you would not put a refinery immediately upwind from a large, densely populated area. No matter how good your pollution controls are, that's sort of asking for trouble. But that's not the situation we have. We have an organic community where the refinery came and the city grew up right alongside it. Chevron has occasionally in the past made some noises about, okay, well, if we can't resolve our problems with the city government here, we may sell off, move out. But those have never really come to pass, and a lot of people in the city just sort of assume that's noise. That's a negotiating tactic.
And David, just real quickly, I think Governor Brown is getting involved in this too. He has called for maybe a single person to be in charge of refinery safety, or a single panel.
A single panel. He put together a task force in the spring that was supposed to look at the state government's role in all this, because the federal government, when they investigated this fire, was very critical of the state. And the state has all these different agencies that actually have a piece of regulating refineries. Those agencies didn't communicate with each other very well, and they're also pretty understaffed. So this task force that the governor put together came out with some recommendations, and the main one was that they want to, by this fall, set up a permanent organization that would coordinate their efforts, and there would be one person who the public could go to for any kind of information on refineries.
Okay.
So that's supposed to happen pretty soon.
All right, we'll see if it makes a difference. David, thank you.